Okay, so here's an interesting little case study. I'm not going to walk you through the entire thing from start to finish, but I do think it's interesting to show how much the existing light can affect the space. What I have behind me is a tiny little bathroom that actually doesn't do it justice. It's one of the most awesome bathrooms I've ever seen with an amazing sink fixture. But what is cool about this is there are so many different lighting options for just one tiny little room, and the photo changes so dramatically depending on what you do. So let's head into this tiny bathroom real quick and get this image composed. Hi, how's it going? Anyway, we're here to compose this photograph. I am in the corner, I'm pretty tight, I'm at 35 millimeters. I have my 24 tilt shift and my 1.4 extender. And what I'm going for is a simple 1-point perspective that doesn't necessarily show the entire bathroom, but again, pares it down to the most interesting, important details. In that case, this beautiful pedestal sink and this incredible stone wall behind the sink. So you may be wondering why I'm not centered. Well, in this case, we are staring down at a huge mirror, and no matter where I put the camera, it's probably going to show up. So I've chosen a composition that is right on the edge of the left of the mirror, maybe 1 millimeter out of the frame, to make sure that I have the least Photoshop work to do possible when it comes to removing things like this toilet and my own camera. If I were to put this camera in the center of the frame, it would show up directly in the mirror, and I'd have the camera and the toilet to deal with in post. Right now, I've only got the toilet. So the lighting that I have control of are the lights in the ceiling, the lights behind the mirror, the daylight, which I can affect by opening or closing the door. That actually gives me many combinations. I've got all these interior lighting options, and I can open the door and further combine both of those with natural daylight. So let's take a few shots and see how the lighting is going to affect our final photograph. So that I'm not in the reflection, I'm going to be controlling the camera from outside and using my camera ranger to trigger it remotely. Okay, so I've actually taken 7 photographs with the camera in the same position, so you can see how just altering the lights available to us changes the scene. My first image here is with the door closed and all of the interior practical lights turned on. We've got the tungsten lights above and the daylight balanced LEDs behind the mirror. And it's kind of cool, but I don't particularly find this super interesting because you've got this weird yellow light underneath the sink. I do like how that copper bowl lights up, and I love seeing, of course, the light behind the mirror. But the light in the foreground is a little bit flat and non-directional. Next, we've got the scene with only the backlit LEDs behind the mirror. And I do find something interesting about this. It's a bit mysterious and moody. I don't know if the client would go for it. I may be able to take it into post-production and bring up some of those shadows to make a more informational photo. So it's cool, but it might be a little bit too funky for delivery. Next, I kept the tungsten lights off and opened up the door to allow that soft natural light to flood in. I think this looks really cool. You have the backlit LEDs behind the mirror, and you get a nice directional light from right to left, which gives that sink a lot of dimension rather than just being flat like the previous photo where it was only really lit from above. Another interesting thing about the shot is the really cool sort of monochromatic ghosty color palette that it has. I think that's pretty unique, and it sort of makes the sink the star of the show because the only thing that isn't black, white, or gray in the shot is the interior of that sink bowl, which I think is really cool. Next, I turned off the LEDs backlighting the mirror, and this is a style that's really seen in a lot of magazines these days. All the lights turned off, nothing but natural light. I like it here as well, but I think we're missing a huge feature of the bathroom, which is that amazing backlit LED behind the mirror. So this is a pretty cool shot with very strong directional light, very strong from right to left, and you can see how it carves out the shape of that sink. Pretty cool, but I don't know if I would deliver this because, again, we're missing half the point of this bathroom, which is that amazing backlit mirror. Moving on, I closed the door, turned off the backlit mirror, and only used the tungsten light in the ceiling. This, to me, is probably my least favorite because we get really nothing sexy about this space. The light is pretty flat and directly from above, and obviously you miss the entire cool feature that is that backlit LED mirror. So I think we can all agree this is kind of a throwaway. Lastly, and what I actually think looks pretty freaking good, is a shot with all the lights on and the door opened up. Now, some people are like, you don't want to mix color cast with different light sources, but I think here, it works pretty good. We get directional light from right to left. We get that backlit mirror, which is pretty neat. We see the copper bowl, which is lit from above, and we get a little bit of tungsten warmth on the floor. So this thing has a lot going for it. The one thing that does bother me significantly in this shot is that I see those practical lights in the ceiling, and the ceiling does have this weird blue, green, orange color cast to it. which kind of looks like, no pun intended, crap. So if I did deliver this, I would be sure to color correct that ceiling or just crop it out entirely and make the focus of the shot that mirror and that really cool pedestal sink. So as you can see, one space can have tons of options without even getting your own flash or hot lights involved. Be sure when you're shooting an interior space like this, you play with the lights a little bit and see what's really available to you before you just immediately go reach for the flash or before you're so certain that this should be a shot with the lights entirely off. I thought this was a great example because all of these photos are just one shot straight out of camera with no post-production applied. Now, obviously, a lot of the photographs we've done in this tutorial and that you're going to do on your own are going to have a lot of post applied, so you're going to have to use a little pre-visualization to think ahead about how the finished photo is going to look before you commit to one lighting style. So we've got a handful of options here. Let's take this into post, crop it, give it some light retouching, and call it a wrap. All right, so here we are in front of the computer and we've got our images lined up. Now, again, this isn't the most intense post-production lesson. This is more of a location lesson, but I want to go through and pick my favorite and edit it to completion anyway. So here is our first shot with the door closed and the bathroom lights on. We have the that mirror light on. Here's our second shot with only the mirror light. It's kind of got like a really sexy mood to it, yeah? I think it does. I think there's something cool about that. And then we open up the door and you can see a little bit of natural light and a little bit of that backlight from the mirror. And now we have only the natural light. And here it is with just the practical light above, which to me feels very flat. And then here it is with the door open and the backlight on and the practical light on. I think I'm kind of torn between this here, just the backlight and the ambient light out the door, and the mix of all three. The reason I don't love this, I feel like it sort of accentuates the toilet back there. I don't want to see like the little toilet brush or the toilet itself. And yes, I suppose we could have taken that out, but when we turn off the practical lights above, we again selectively sort of hide that toilet in the background. And I think that is probably my favorite there, without big toilet behind us. So door open, backlight on. There's also not a lot of color cast there, but we could totally edit that out very easily. So I'll just do, I'll edit a couple of them. I'll do some light edits here and we'll see how things look. I'm going to start with this guy. Door open, lights off. I don't want to pull the shadows up because if I pull the shadows up, the toilet becomes prominent. Not really necessary. Highlights, maybe like a smidge down. I don't want to go too far down. I want to keep some whites in here. Maybe we're a little bit underexposed. I definitely think we need texture and clarity to bring out the stone here. Right, you can see it kind of goes from a muddy mess. I think we could use some contrast. I don't need to crank this. That's a little bit much, but 20 maybe? 16. Vibrance and saturation. Because we're working in predominantly natural soft daylight, we don't have any, crazy white balance problems here. It might be a little bit cool, but I don't really hate that. And I think from here on out, it's just a matter of getting those vertical lines dialed in. I'll probably, I'm going to take out this little guy. I'll take out this guy. And I'll take out this vent. Let's go one further and clean this up as much as I can. Okay, there's that. Little crop. I feel like this white on the left is a little distracting. I think it's like right there. That's probably a little more height. That feels pretty good. Now I'm just going to take out some barrel distortion. It's like a smidge in here. And then I'm going to use my guided transform tool. This could be tricky because this is not, this is in the mirror, and I'm assuming, you can safely assume that every mirror has some warp to it because things never quite reflect perfectly. I'm going to drag my perspective correction tool down, and I'll grab the right side of the mirror as well. But like I said, I feel like this is, that actually looks pretty good. I'll do one more at the base of the mirror, and that should get us, with any luck, nice and straight. Yeah, that feels really good. And there's our first shot. So I'll go ahead, I'll give that a little rating. I'm going to take most of these adjustments and apply them to this one with the lights on. And that looks pretty good, but I'm going to desaturate. Yikes. All right, I see some problems. We took our cloning, and it looks kind of goofy, so I'm going to have to go in here. No, well, you know, if the light's on, why would I clone it out? Now it's there, but it's like, it becomes this distracting little, like, mosquito in the top of the frame. I got to live with it, because the light is on. If I took it out, it would make no sense. But let's take out some of these yellows. So saturation slider down here. A little less intense in the yellows. Like, I could Photoshop out this toilet if I wanted to go that route. It's just a matter of copy and pasting this pattern from behind the wall down here, and then extending this tile all the way back. You know what? We're here, let's do it. I'll just show you how. Okay, here we are in Photoshop. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of this art hook. I'm just going to duplicate my background here. Shift F5. Get rid of that. And I'm going to take, let's see. Give me this big chunk of wall here. Copy, paste. First thing I'm going to do is the bottom. And because I have this really complicated curve right here, I'm going to use the pen tool to create my mask. So I'm going to hit P for the pen tool, and this is just like the lasso tool. Very important to learn this if you're going to be an architectural photographer. You can just click in straight lines, but the beauty of the pen tool is you can create these complex curves and then take selections with them, or make selections out of those complex curves. So I'll do this quickly, and then I'll explain a bit slower. So as you can see, I'm able to adjust the curve of that path, grabbing these handles. I am option clicking and grabbing these handles to adjust the path of the pen and go around the sink. And And I'm going to close the loop on this. Sorry for the horrible corporate sentence. And I'm going to hit Command Enter to turn that into a selection. I'm going to turn my layer 1 back on. I'll rename this. And I'm going to feather that edge to kind of cover my tracks by 1 pixel so that it blends smoothly. And I'm going to hit this Add Layer Mask button. All right, there is a significant portion of our toilet gone. And so now all I've got to do is blend that so I can add a curves adjustment layer, clip it as I've done many times before, and I'm just looking to match the luminosity right here, this area right there. See how the original is too dark, but I bump it up and it matches and it's about there. Okay, I can close that. I'm going to take a brush, and to further cover my tracks, I can slowly and softly brush away that edge. There we go. Okay, so that looks really good. I'm going to get rid of this little Cam Ranger bag here. Just make a selection. The marquee tool. Grab the clone stamp and just pull that out. Okay, so now we have this area down here, and this will be very simple too. I'm just going to, I'll grab the pen tool again. I can click, make a straight line, make an angled line, and I can just go around, right? You can use it as a lasso and do very simple shapes with 1 click, or you can get as complicated as you want with it by clicking and dragging and drawing out curves. So I'm going to make a selection from that. I'm going to copy paste. And then I'm going to go to the Paths tab over here and command click to reactivate that pen path. I'm going to create a mask on my new floor fix layer, and I'm going to decouple them or de-link. That way when I transform the actual pixels, the mask on top of it does not transform at the same time. And I'm just going to stretch that out. And like I did up above, I'm going to have to add a curves layer to it and darken until that matches the luminosity. Again, it's right in here, this area. I want that luminosity to match from tile to tile. Close enough, right? And I'm going to, again, take a brush, soft brush, and gently blend out that edge to cover my tracks. Okay, now the last thing to do is take away this toilet flusher button thing. So I'm going to make a new layer, grab my pen tool, same thing, I'm going to pen tool this edge, going to make 2 points, click and drag to give myself a nice curve. Alt or Option click on that last point to get a straight line. Because if I try to just keep going from here, I'm going to get this curve. I don't really need that. I mean, you can do it either way, but you can reset that curve by Option clicking or Alt clicking. And just get myself a nice bounding box here. Command Enter, feather the edge. Take your brush, your clone brush in this case. I'm just going to clone from one layer above here. Get rid of that. Beautiful. Edited. Fixed. Save. All right, there's that. Now remember, it had all those adjustments applied to it before in Lightroom. And the last option was this shot with just the natural light in the backlight, and I can do the same thing. I can grab the edits from before, paste them over, and I've got 3 shots in significantly different light. All great results, but we did not have to do that much in post, right? Because we got the light right on location. We made it far more interesting than just throwing on all the lights or shutting the door and flashing it or whatever. But we got a really beautiful, simple shot out of it. Let's go back on location and make a few more pictures.